Behavioral therapy is one of the most strongly supported non-medication treatments for ADHD and has many decades of research behind it. The research says it's mostly effective for ages 3 to 12, so elementary school,
Right.
preschool age. And it really can help disruptive behaviors, can help improve parent and child relationships, and overall can improve compliance for daily tasks like brushing teeth and getting homework done, and some of the things that are the most stressful for families. So it's a really powerful intervention with a lot of research behind it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony,
And I'm Casey.
and we're with Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness. And this is our YouTube channel, The Way Forward, a Kindness Mission. And we want to welcome especially those joining us for the first time. It's great to have you with us. We created Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness in memory of our son, Anthony, with one mission in mind: to help kids with ADHD thrive. Since we launched in October of 2023, we have been able to help over 70 families get the right care for their child. What's really exciting for us is that we are directly sponsoring children and covering the cost of care for those children. March brings in Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and it just so happens is March 16th to the 20th. And it's a perfect time to bring you top psychologists to share their thoughts on ADHD, and we have a top one today that we're going to share with you. So this month and every month, please be kind to those with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and other neurological differences. The week aims to raise awareness about neurodiversity, promoting understanding and acceptance while challenging stereotypes and misconceptions. It's time for schools, workplaces, and communities to engage in activities that foster a more inclusive environment for all. This month, we ask you, what can you do and what will you do to make 2026 the best year ever? And so we want to welcome Dr. Gretchen Hunter with us today. Hello, Gretchen. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And we're first going to go. Casey's going to spend a couple minutes on your bio here.
Yep. So today we have Dr. Gretchen Hunter, Executive Director of Clinical Operations, Behavioral Health at Child and Family Development in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's a licensed psychologist and a clinical neuropsychologist. Gretchen is a clinical neuropsychologist with over 15 years of experience at CNFD, where she has devoted her career to supporting children with complex developmental, neurological, and learning needs. She is deeply passionate about helping kids understand their strengths, overcome challenges, and gain access to the services that allow them to thrive. Gretchen believes strongly in empowering families with knowledge, compassion, and practical tools, ensuring they never feel alone as they navigate their child's needs. Her clinical focus includes comprehensive neuropsychological evaluations for children with complex profiles, as well as ADHD evaluations and parent education groups. Gretchen especially enjoys helping parents build confidence, skills, and strategies they can use at home to support their child's growth and emotional well-being. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome,
Thank
Gretchen.
you.
And really great, too, that Child and Family Development has been voted one of Charlotte's best in 2024 and again in 2025. Well, congratulations.
We're so proud.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
That's great.
So, just for everybody listening, Gretchen, why don't you start out with your background and how you really got into psychology? And we got a two-part podcast for you. This first part is about ADHD and how behavioral therapy and parent coaching really work. And we're excited about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we love learning more and more, and we've been learning over the past 2+ years. And we love talking to experts like you, Gretchen. And so please share some of how you got to where you're at, and how you really started working with kids and families.
Absolutely. I'm a Charlotte native, and growing up, my younger sister was diagnosed with autism. So I
Mm.
got to see firsthand as a sibling participating in speech and OT and PT and social skills groups. She actually got services at Child and Family Development in the 80s and
Oh, wow.
90s.
Wow.
And so that was very fun to go on to graduate school. I really was naturally drawn to learning about the brain, learning about kids, learning about families, and so just was able to find my niche, and then returned to Charlotte, and thought maybe I'll call that place and see if they could give me a job. So I've been very happy getting to full circle, come back and support the mission. So
That's awesome.
I just love kids, and I never stop learning.
That's awesome. That's really great. Yeah. And so let's these two topics go hand in hand. And then let's start out with behavioral therapy and maybe give an overview of what it is so everybody understands it and what do the studies say about it?
Sure. Behavioral therapy is one of the most strongly supported non-medication treatments for ADHD, and has many decades of research behind it. The research says it's mostly effective for ages 3 to 12, so elementary school,
Right.
preschool age. And it really can help disrupt. Can help disruptive behaviors, can help improve parent and child relationships, and overall can improve compliance for daily tasks like brushing teeth and getting homework done, and some of the things that are the most stressful for families. So it's a really powerful intervention with a lot of research behind it.
And you can really start at 3 years of age.
Yeah.
Three years of age. Okay.
You can. The behaviors look different and the interventions look different, but yeah. And really, oftentimes behavior therapy is combined with school-based interventions. So, what can
Mhm.
teachers and schools do to support students and communicate with families? Um, but really, behavioral therapy, especially when combined with medication, produces the strongest outcomes in terms
Okay.
of decreased symptoms that are difficult and increased quality of life measures for the whole family.
Yeah. So on that it's non-medication. So do a
Mhm,
lot of parents really appreciate that it is non-medication?
mhm,
Is that what
mhm.
you find?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the main kind of takeaways are it can really cut down on behaviors that are tough for kids and parents to manage, like tantrums,
Mm.
arguments, being able to follow through on daily tasks, and really anecdotally, I see in my practice, but also in the literature, families really feel more confident in managing their child's
Mm.
behavior. They understand the why, and so they themselves can stay more calm and regulated when they're interacting with their kids because they have a plan and they can see progress. And it has really nice benefits for siblings and everybody in the home
Yeah.
when we give the kids the right support that they need. And so behavior therapy is really giving the parents tools to be able to do that, not just 1 hour a week in a therapy session, but
Mhm.
all day long. I think that's the main power, is being able to increase knowledge for parents so that they can be the most effective they can.
Great. So why is parent training so important and how can it be effective for kids from 3 to 12?
I think kind of to broaden the idea that they don't really depend on a therapist being present. It's the therapist really transmitting the knowledge, so then the parent can go and do it all day long, on the weekends, after school, routines, bedtime routines, morning routines, and that they're really able to um, increase their child's ability to transition from non-preferred to preferred activities better,
Mhm.
to not get so dysregulated when they're frustrated. So it's really a 360 kind of intervention. If you can teach the parents, you can have, I think that's what really drew me to this career versus in the medical field or an adjacent career, is that I could use my knowledge to increase outcomes. And that's really powerful to me. And so um, a lot of the behavioral therapy things are very commonplace. They've really been around since the 60s. And so a lot of the interventions are things that we may not recognize as behaviorism, but are present in our schools and our workplaces. But the idea of positive reinforcement using reward systems that are very effective to really encourage a child to do the behaviors we want. It involves providing very clear expectations. So using really consistent routines, breaking tasks into smaller steps, so that using schedules and checklists so kids really know what to expect. And then a variety of using consistent consequences. So if the child fails to meet the expectation, what comes next? When they're younger, it might be a timeout procedure. It might be removing privileges so that kids know day in and day out what to expect, and that both parents are on the same page. And so they're really working as a team to be very consistent across, and that they don't have to be a smarty pants and think of a solution in the moment. It's very rehearsed, and so they know exactly what to do. Other parts that are really nice about it are you can do it for all the kids in your household. Everybody can have a morning routine. Everybody can have a visual schedule, even kids without ADHD. And so you're able to implement something really consistently. And you're also really providing structure to kids with ADHD that their brain really likes best, like being able to use timers to know how long something might take, or movement breaks. And so it's very individualized for the child so that their sensory needs are met and their learning needs are, so it's not a one size fits all.
So do the parent and the child come to the sessions together?
Depending on the age and the specific curriculum, there's a variety of evidence-based curriculums. So for some younger children, there's parent-child interaction therapy where the parent and child are there together. And it's a mixture of parent-only sessions where you're discussing adult skills and you're, kind of describing, and then others where you're actually practicing in front of the therapist and getting feedback in real time.
Okay. That's great.
How often do you have parents that maybe aren't on the same page? And if they're not, how do you get them on the same page?
That is very common. We all come to parenting with our own experiences growing up, books we've read, and really just our individual temperament styles. Parents can really range from being a little bit more of a softie to a little bit more of a disciplinarian. And so really all of these focus on kind of the why. So doing some education at the front end with parents about child development, what is appropriate for that child's age, and kind of the sequence or why it's important, and then being able to help parents with their buy-in to say, hey, remember, we talked about this, and so I'm going to work on this skill. I'm going to try to be a little more consistent on this, and maybe, another parent. So it really can be individualized, but parents are typically really seeking support, and that is certainly in my practice. And so they are like, please tell me what to do. And so usually there's a lot of interest in, okay, how do we get started? How do we go for this? But and once you teach them the skills and tricks, I'm always just so impressed by how well they can follow through and be consistent and are so pleased to come back and say, guess what? Guess what happened? You know, we did this and it was really effective. And I was kind of surprised. It seems simple, but it's not simple. It's parenting is not simple.
No, it's not.
So if you do have one parent that just will not participate, you just work with the parent that will.
Sure, sure. But it's always extending, information and opportunities to troubleshoot. Sometimes I find that uh, parents have kind of myths in their, in their kind of they're wondering, well, if I praise a kid, then that might be spoiling them.
Mm,
Or, again, sometimes they really are. I'm very humbled that they share sort of their upbringing that was from a
mhm.
different culture, and so really trying to integrate sort of what their parenting beliefs are, and then really helping them understand the reason that, or maybe they didn't have to do this level of effort with their other children, and so that can be a bit frustrating to say, but this one really needs this, and so usually sometimes an ongoing conversation can usually get them. And then when they start seeing outcomes, they're like, okay.
So what we're finding is that it's typically the mom that is reaching out and wanting to move things forward. Is that what you're seeing too?
We definitely we see a lot of moms making treatment decisions, initiating contact. But I've been doing parent groups, and both parents participate, and I've been really surprised and pleased how involved dads are and how much they really want to be a part of things. So sometimes I think it's really just an invitation and helping them feel like this will be a good use of their time to help their kid. And you'd be surprised, sometimes the softie is not the mom.
Oh,
No.
Uh,
that's what I was. I was pretty much the disciplinarian, and Dad was the fun one.
Yeah.
So he still is
So
with
yeah,
our
I still
granddaughter.
still am. But
and
they're good,
and all of that's good, and I love the idea that it's a parenting um a team, and so you don't have to be good at
yeah,
everything. You can lean on each other and support each other, and one parent can absolutely be the one that the kid talks to at bedtime about what's going on, and that's okay, as long as you're not working at cross purposes is
yeah.
probably okay. Yeah.
So there are parents coming to you when they feel like there's no other choice. They
Like
have they
they're at
have
the end of their
they
rope.
have to get help. Otherwise, yeah, is that when you're when
I mean, we serve a pretty diverse population, and so families are often checking with their pediatrician. Hey, we're having a lot of trouble. They're connecting with their preschool teacher, or perhaps
okay,
the kindergarten teacher is raising some concerns, and so yeah, they are reaching out for professional support. Sometimes they say, "I've already tried everything," but oftentimes that you'd be surprised. They're very early in their journey. They've, just received an ADHD diagnosis, and they're
okay,
really active in wanting to do the right thing and wanting to support their kid. It's certainly not, gosh, this has been a problem for 5 years, and this is the first time we're reaching out. I'm so impressed when folks really reach out to get the help that they need.
yeah, that's great. It's great. So as we understand, there are validated programs. What
Hmm.
are some of those examples? Can you share some of that? And what does it mean that it's
Sure.
validated? It's been tested by.
So validated means, large scale clinical trials across multiple sites, over, many different thousands of children and families. Parent-child interaction therapy, PCIT, is one. I was lucky enough as a graduate student to get to work in the PCIT lab where that was developed in Florida. So got to see firsthand. But it makes so much sense when you think about child development. It focuses on both developing a warm and positive connection between parent and child, because if a
Mhm.
child's having a lot of disruptive behavior, that can wear on the relationship, and so it really operationalizes, this is how we praise children. This is how we describe their behaviors. This is how we model what they're doing in a play-based way. And kids just eat it up. They love getting that positive attention. And then it's a very structured, how do we do consistent discipline, commands, timeout, so that we get a nice mixture of this is how we strengthen the relationship and also how we improve compliance. And so that's really for the littles, ages 3 to 7, and is very effective for tantrums, hitting, kicking, and disruptive behaviors. So that's maybe one of the most well-known ones. A couple of others that have really strong support. One's called the Incredible Years, which is actually group-based parent sessions and teaches parents through a variety of modeling and role play and practice. That one has a really nice evidence base for improving social skills for kids, again, through transferring the knowledge to the parent. So then the parent is the coach at the playground, on play dates, with siblings, and also reducing aggression. The Triple P positive parenting program is really flexible and really works for very mild concerns through more significant behavior concerns. And so a lot of these are embedded in healthcare systems, community-based agencies, and are not specific to ADHD. They're more broad-based. And then one that is very specific for ADHD is called behavior parent training or parent management training. And it's a very curriculum-based, delivered in individual one-on-one with a family or in a group setting. And it really teaches reward systems and consequences and ways of communicating, and has probably one of the strongest evidence-based for ADHD, because again, it is very specific for ADHD. So these can be delivered one-on-one with a licensed therapist. They can be delivered in groups, and in a variety of settings.
So what do you do if a child, like, you ever run into where a child is not motivated to do homework, not motivated to really get out? And what happens if you run into that? Is there
the one thing about ADHD is that rewards can become kind of boring.
yeah.
And so the idea of kind of loses appeal quickly. And so part of what makes individualizing these programs so important is what is super motivating to your kid, and how do we use the constructs of behaviorism to really get their why, and then be able to deliver it in a way that is very rewarding. So rewards can I just love kind of how creative families can be with choosing rewards, making sure that's really close to the time the kid does it. So that can be verbal praise, that can be high fives, things that can be delivered a ton and are free. I've seen families have very good success with getting to choose the song on the way to school in the car, getting to choose the family dessert, getting to right, all sorts of things. It really can be getting to choose what movie the family gets to watch. So things that are really meaningful to the kid. And also, it certainly can be purchased items, things they're working towards, favorite toys, but it can be things that are delivered, in much smaller frequencies, and are related to getting to choose.
Cool.
Is there a time length that you shoot for to get parents through these programs, or is it just as they need it? Like, can they come 1 week, they need something, and then skip a week and then come back another week?
Typically, the things are related to, of course, the family's needs, but there is kind of a dosage, if you will, to say, let's these skills build on each other. Let's make sure that we're spending enough time on tasks so that parents have the chance to learn and implement skills so they can be, doing them really effectively. So you typically start with weekly sessions. And then the programs tend to last a range, but 3 months, 4 months of weekly is typically the cadence. And then there's often kind of booster sessions or, ongoing parent needs. Once they're an expert on the skills, then a lot of times they're using the therapist for troubleshooting or fine tuning their approach. So, the good part is that access to care can really be expanded through telehealth. And so, parent only, we're talking unless we're, interacting with the kid. And so that can be provided to make it much more convenient and across longer distances for families to be able to get in with folks. But typically there's kind of, how did last week go? Here's some new content. Let's talk about how to use it. And then the parents kind of go try one or two strategies in between sessions. And I forgot to mention a big part is developing a kind of emotional coaching for themselves, because part of being able to be consistent is to stay calm and deliver. So a lot of it is about, here's some, some strategies for you. Kids are so complicated and they can just really get a parent so activated because we care about their survival. So being staying collected is a big part of that. So the therapist really is acting as the parent's support as well and if the parent needs additional referrals or support so that they can be calm and steady is an important part of the assessment process.
So families have to have the ADHD or one of these to come there to the organization, right? They have to have been diagnosed, or do you do a diagnosis too for
Sure. For our setup, we are able to do diagnostic evaluations, psychological evaluations on the front end, but also being able to work in a more short-term way with a child that's displaying some behavioral problems but doesn't meet criteria for a diagnosis currently is also a really good use of this. It's a preventative to say we've got some disruptive behavior, but no diagnosis yet, is also a really appropriate.
Yeah, great. So so about 3 to 4 months, and then there's a week to week, back coming week to week, and then after that, as needed, or it could be troubleshooting, as you said.
When new
things
pop up, as soon as you think that you've got one covered, then we've got another one that we can't seem to get a hold of. So,
and I feel like that's a cadence for families, that they'll kind of come for an initial problem, get some good skills, feel, and then we'll discharge, but then we'll come back 6 months later, 2 years later, and again, as a trusted professional to say, hey, we've got a new thing. We'd like to get some help. That really feels good as a professional, that you're a trusted resource. And we say, okay, come on back. What do we have now? And so part of that is assessing, what would be helpful. Maybe it's OT, maybe we need to do some things with the school. Maybe we need to get some other team members involved. So I think it feels good that they come back for a trusted resource to say, what do we do now?
do you ever work with any education advocates?
Yeah, we have a couple in town that are just incredible that we refer to. Interacting with the school system can be so daunting for families.
It is.
It can be really hard to understand their rights and really what their child may be eligible for from the school team. And so, yes, often after an evaluation, if there are complex issues with the school, or sometimes if a child has a more complex diagnosis, educational advocate can be invaluable to just help educate and facilitate and support a family walking through a 504 or IEP process.
Do you feel that recommendations are better accepted when it's coming from a professional like yourself?
I feel like the data really drives the recommendation. So there has to be levels of need, functional impairment to be able to say, based on this diagnosis or based on these scores, this is how this translates. Because really, school settings are operating on, here's the rubric of kind of what meets
Right.
criteria. And
Right.
so
Right.
it's not so much that I think they listen to me, but I think being able to spell out the data and how it clearly meets criteria for any kind of third party system of accommodations is very helpful. I'm always impressed with kind of the level of data that the school team has gathered and being able
Mhm.
to integrate an outside evaluation. I'm always very impressed. I feel like
Yeah.
they know these children so well and can really speak to the levels of support that they can provide at school.
We're finding it pretty challenging with this from the 504s and IEPs for the schools. I mean, we have an education advocate on our team, and she, a lot of stuff is done virtually because she's not in the locale. But um, we find it much different here in North Carolina than we did in Pennsylvania or some other states that we've worked with.
It's a complicated system,
That
no doubt.
really
Yeah.
is, and
That's an
especially
understatement.
yeah, especially when there's so many kids that might have a 504. I mean, in the classes today, are you seeing um, more and more kids getting assessed in your practice?
Um, that's sort of hard to say. I mean, we have pretty steady. Charlotte's getting bigger, so I think
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Everything.
But yeah, I mean, we've been evaluating and serving kids since 1980, and so I feel like we've had there's always a lot of need and a
Yeah.
lot of kids with uh, you know more complex presentations or they're flying under the radar. And so being able to really bring that clarity of, okay, what is going on? Is this a learning disability? Is this ADHD?
Mhm.
How do all these pieces fit together so that we can support the whole child?
Right.
So yeah, yeah, we have a lot of referrals.
Yeah, we've had comments like, well, it just seems like ADHD has become the popular thing to have now.
Um,
Why is there so much more ADHD now than there was,
mm,
10 years ago?
mm. Um, I mean, when we know better, I feel like when I work with parents and they say, "Oh, this is what I thought ADHD was in
Right,
the 80s or
Mhm.
90s or 2000s, but this
right.
is what it actually is." I think that nuance and complexity and just better treatments and better understanding and more training for professionals in schools probably I mean that would make a lot of sense to me in terms of kind of what we're seeing about more inattentive presentations for girls that we weren't
Yeah.
Right.
diagnosing
Right. But,
before and
yeah, what we've been working on, there's a whole new initiative to identify ADHD on young girls sooner because it hasn't been. You find a lot more girls getting assessed later in life and trying to bring that up sooner so that we can identify them in the teenagers, we can help them. And that's a whole program that's out there now, at least in our
Mhm.
space. Yeah.
Mhm.
So share some success stories. What are some
Oh,
stories that
so
I'm sure you got
many.
so many, right? Yeah.
So
So
many. Um, I think I get the privilege of since I have, am able to do clinical work myself, but also supervise
right,
and hear
right.
great stories from colleagues. I mean, I think some of the ones that really speak to me the loudest are really about the family dynamics and family peace. And I can think of a variety of examples where getting out the door in the morning was just a lot of tears, a lot of angst, and being able to teach parents skills, rework what are the expectations about getting your shoes on and brushing your teeth, It just, I mean, that happens every day. And so,
Right.
sometimes those things seem small, but they're really big, and they're big to a family. And when I think about the amount of negative feedback that a kid with ADHD gets
Oh,
for,
Uh,
being
so
able to tackle some of those daily challenges feels really, really good to me. And so, thinking about helping, or with homework, a structured routine where a kid feels like they can get supported and they can actually do the work without ending in tears.
mm,
I feel like a lot of those daily tasks are really meaningful. I feel so excited when a behavioral plan has worked really well. And, I think that the other ones that feel so successful are if you can help a parent understand their kid isn't just, being difficult for no reason. This is a challenge for them, and teaching them better communication strategies. I can think of a
mm,
lot of kids,
mhm,
and into preteens where if their parent was willing to kind of sit back and listen, really listen to their kid. And the kid was able to suggest, hey, I feel like this would work better. This is why I'm having a hard time. And really working from a more collaborative approach really makes me feel so happy for them, because that's a lifelong skill, being able to calmly, discuss a problem with a
yeah.
loved one or a boss, and be able to negotiate something that works for both parties. I feel
Right.
like a lot of those are very heartwarming. So
Yeah.
I think that using a behavioral framework is so powerful because it works and it
Yeah.
can build skills forever.
Well, what we hear a lot about is that it's the morning session, obviously.
Oh,
It's the coming home and eating, school, the homework time, and it's bedtime.
bedtime. Oh,
Those are
bedtime.
kind of.
Bedtime.
So what's some success stories about going, that bedtime part? Because that.
Oh, bedtime is a lot because you think, okay, um, you know, all kinds of people struggle with sleep. There are like behavioral sleep consultants for professional athletes that have a hard time, settling down and sleeping during when they're traveling. And so sleep is such a core need. It's so important to kids. And if this kid is up, they're disrupting everybody else in the household. Everybody's cranky. So I hear lots of concerns about won't doesn't want to sleep by themselves, messing around and is all fired up at bedtime. And so really, um, you know, uh, a behavioral approach is a very systematic approach. Okay, let's think about all the variables and let's try things in a systematic way and see what works. We can't change everything at once,
All right.
but so a lot of things are about let's interview the kid and see how they feel about their bedtime routine, how their bedroom set up, what are the kinds of steps to it, and then provide some education about, okay, here's what we know about sleep, and these are the things that help a kid wind down. And some of them are very well known now about like no screens in the bedroom, or
Mhm.
a calm down routine at night, or it needs to be, cold and dark, and a lot of things even that I think are fascinating. The idea of like weighted blankets, the
mhm,
idea of lavender. I think that just
Yeah.
really creating a space, and then, setting up, here are the rewards for staying in your bedroom. Here's a sticker chart, here's some rewards. Or, we're going to return you to your bedroom if you try to come and sleep with us. So kind of whatever the plan is that's developed, and that kids are able to get restful sleep, and they're able to, and the benefits for them. Now you can go on spend the nights, now you can go on sleepovers or sleepaway camp. We got to make sure that you're able to get good restful sleep, in your own bed, and that's an important thing. And families are just so thrilled when that starts working
Okay.
because
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We didn't We didn't really have trouble like that with Anthony. That was never really an issue. I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, but lots of kids with ADHD do, sometimes feeling like they can't turn their mind off, or feeling like,
Sure.
it's important for their medication prescriber to, think about when they're taking their dosage to make sure it's out of their system so they're not, and then really being able to predictably, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. I know it's daylight
Yeah.
savings, and so this is
Yeah.
a good time of year to
Yeah.
be talking about. We all lost an hour's sleep,
Lost
and
an hour. Yeah. 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 Yeah, we didn't have a lot of challenges. I mean, the only thing I remember is, I mean, homework was a bit of a challenge because
It was impossible.
he had
He had
learning
learning
he had
disabilities also.
dysgraphia, and we had to figure out how he would learn. I mean, it was just
Mhm.
until we figured that out, it took us a little time, but you know, he he wanted to always do the work on his own as he got older, and he would sit there and keep trying, and sometimes would get frustrated, and I mean, I'm sure all the kids run into that, but we helped him out. We got tutors for him where we needed tutors.
I wish we'd had you.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Oh,
We do. We
at
do.
least I could have pointed to it. No, I can't do it. I can't teach them how to their handwriting. I'm not so good at that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
um, but ADHD and learning disabilities are very comorbid, is the word,
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
goes together a lot.
True.
And so that can be a big challenge. But you're absolutely right. With the right support, kids feel more confident. They know
Yeah.
how to approach it, and their self-esteem stays up, and they recognize that they are able to perform at a really high level once they figure out
Yeah.
all the workarounds, and
And takes time. Takes a lot. It's a
takes time.
process like everything else. So one thing to ask is like, how do you help a child that is having some self-esteem issues whereby they are getting called out because they have dysgraphia and they have to get asked the questions because them trying to write it down, it doesn't work, and then they come back in the class and they're said, they're picked on because they had to leave, and there's still bullying going on. There's still all as even
Mhm.
in the younger ages. I mean, that stuff still goes on. It's amazing how things haven't rectified himself, but we hear a lot of sad stories about bullying, and Anthony was bullied through as he was
Mhm.
going through. So, how do the parents bring that issue to you too?
They do. Sometimes kids are hard on themselves, and they'll say,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm stupid. I can't do it." So sometimes it's really not even from outside. It's, frustration with themselves, and then definitely worried about being different, worried about fitting in with their friends and their classmates. I think that all of the supports we give kids really have the way to support self-esteem, because if we're able to fill in any skills gaps, then they're able to achieve at a higher level, and that makes them feel good. I definitely think the parent-child relationship and all of the support, helps them feel unconditional positive regard, which means like I'm loved for me, and it's not really about
Mhm.
what I produce or I achieve.
right.
And then really in the past, I mean, at least decade, probably longer, the idea about some, research emphasis on building resilience, the idea
Mhm.
on grit. Maybe you've heard, so this
Yeah,
this interest area to say, how is there a way we can like make kids more gritty and help them overcome,
Mhm.
frustrations. I feel like some of the most um, popular parenting resources are about that idea to say, we shouldn't just solve all their problems. We want them to be able to experience some frustration and be able to grow from it. So,
Mhm.
one-on-one with a kid in therapy or with their parents, a lot of the focus is on reframing some of their difficulties to be more strengths-based, and or kind of challenging if they're being hard on themselves, maybe that's overly negative and really not giving themselves credit for all the good things they're doing. So sometimes it's about kind of raising their awareness. Sometimes it's about education about ADHD so that they, don't have these, unreasonable expectations about that. And I think parents can coach them through, I tried out for the soccer team and I didn't make it. There's plenty of opportunities to support a kid and saying, I'm going to keep trying because I like this and I know that I'll get better over time, even if I'm not demonstrating. I know some kids that if they try it once and they can't do it, they are like, ah, that's it, and so
Right.
trying to self-esteem, comes from a lot of places, but being able to overcome adversity is a strong place for it. Kind of,
Yeah.
you believe in yourself because you were able to achieve.
Yeah.
The world would be a much better place if everybody could understand that we're all different.
Yeah.
There's not one of us that's the same, and just
Yes.
to celebrate our differences instead of picking on people because they are different from who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like that in some ways gets easier. My dissertation was on bullying a long time ago. And I just remember being like, oh, it kind of peaks at certain grades. And then it kind of, and the idea
Yeah.
that as kids get a little older and they find their people and they're able to find their identity, that some of that goes away because they're able to find their group. It can be harder at younger ages where
Yeah. I can.
um and
The
depending
other-
on the school environment and kind of
yeah.
how that all plays out, it can be really tough.
We still hear a lot about friendships. Friendships are hard to make as the kids are younger and getting as they're progressing through because they haven't found their people yet. And some people may not be their friends, may not want them to come over. And what are your thoughts on this friendship? How do you guide parents from some of that? Because that could cause behavioral issues in terms of being sad or being frustrated and you know
I think that parents can, in some ways, try to follow their kids' interests and strengths for their extracurricular activities or, family things. I have seen families have really good results with trying to cultivate neighborhood friendships, school-based friendships, and the parent is, trying to provide opportunities and guidance during the play date, if their kid does something that is a little off-putting, providing some structured feedback about that. I have definitely seen kids benefit from a more formal engagement in learning skills that, how to start a conversation and how to handle conflict. So, social skills groups are an intervention that are offered, in school settings and in private clinics where kind of systematically teaching kids, more productive things so that they are, ooh, let me stop, let me stop before I do that. But I really have seen families feel like, okay, like I found an environment or I found something where we can support our kid, and that feels really good. I'm going to be a little more intentional about kind of supporting the friendships that I think are helpful,
yeah.
and helping mitigate some of the drama that comes with that.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, why can you share um, how you're structured in your organization? How is everybody trained on the behavioral side of things and parent coaching, or are there specific people in the organization that have different skill sets and they work with different parts of with the families?
Sure. So we have licensed psychologists and licensed mental health counselors. And so all of those people provide, individual therapy with the child and parent coaching as really it's part of the child focused therapy. And folks use a variety of techniques and interventions. So it's a pretty broad category in terms of parent coaching to support behavioral goals. So that's pretty common amongst providers
Okay.
because these are
So
common concerns.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and you have how many in your overall practice that you have there? How many
Oh,
people?
I don't
Tough question.
know. Almost 90.
90. Okay. Wow.
We just
Okay.
had
That's
some,
great.
we just had some new So those are speech therapists, occupational
Yeah.
therapists,
Cool.
physical therapists, educational. We have ABA.
One-stop shop.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's great that it's great to know that you're there. You're there for the
Yeah.
folks in Charlotte. And so I want to follow up on one thing that you mentioned. So um you have to stay in the state of North Carolina for you to do the virtual stuff, right? It's
Mhm, mhm.
because of your license, right?
Yeah,
But you could help someone here in Wilmington,
sure.
via, so as we get families come on with us that we want to refer over to you, that
Sure.
will happen as long as they're here within North Carolina.
Well, and technology's great. So our providers have always wanted to offer free screening phone calls to make sure we understand the
Right,
concerns. Kind of,
right.
so families can go to our website and set up a free phone call to talk through any of their concerns to make sure we get sorted to the right service. It's a good fit. So that's I think that's very important. I'm so glad that we're able to um, feel like we could answer questions to make sure they are ready to get started in the
So
process.
it's so important, is it that they find the right person to work with in your organization. It just makes such a, the relationship has to be there for everybody. It's
Hmm.
really cool. Yeah, that's great.
Or even if we can't serve them for some reason, providing outside referrals. We're pretty connected with our local community because
All right.
everybody does different stuff.
No, that's awesome. It's awesome. Anything else that you want to add for this part between behavioral and parent coaching
I would
that we
just
missed?
I would just encourage families to be really open to this process. I think that it can be intimidating to feel like, what do you mean? I need to learn some new skills, that maybe that's kind of the assumption that they're not doing something right, or that they are lacking in their parent skills. That is not the premise at all. The premise is, that really specialized knowledge and skills is needed to be able to make their home a more peaceful place. And so I see some hesitation, or maybe some unasked questions about why do you need to talk to me? Can't you just talk to my kid? But if we just talk to the kid, they're kids, so they can
Right.
only.
Right. Much right.
So I think just even if families feel kind of hesitant, jump in, try to do, and I feel like they'll and ask any questions about why should I do this, or I feel I mean, some families are concerned about timeout, the idea of a kid going in their room, and so being able to really talk freely about what intervention, what's the why, and then how to really tailor it for their specific family are all really important thoughts,
Yeah.
questions to discuss.
Yeah. Well, as Casey said, I wish we had you around when we were going through the process with our kids. So I mean, I think it would have been a
Oh,
lot different. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
But thank you, Gretchen, for all the feedback on this part. This is really, really
thank
great stuff.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is so
So
I love talking about this.
we are happy that you like talking, because you have a lot of useful
Yeah,
information
it's so needed.
and a lot of needed information that
Yeah.
that a lot of parents would love to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
So we
you.
are excited to partner with Gretchen and her team at Child and Family Development. That brings us to the end of today's episode and part one with Dr. Gretchen Hunter. And what a powerful conversation it was. Part two will be coming out shortly, where we will have a discussion on cognitive-based therapy, emotional regulation, and collaborative problem solving. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might need it, a parent, a teacher, or anyone walking the ADHD journey. The more we spread this information, the more support we bring to our kids. To learn more about Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness, and our mission to empower children and teens with ADHD, visit us online and follow along on social media. Also, please subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue making a difference in these kids' lives.
So Gretchen, thank you, and we thank all of those for listening. We always like to end our sessions with our motto, and I don't know if we shared our motto with you, but
Mm,
it goes like this, and we hope everybody listens and post this. Today is the best day of your life, and tomorrow
will be
even better.
And life is better with you.
We want everybody to cut that out, put it on the fridge, have the kids say it, because I'll tell you, we shared a story because our kids would run out of the house as they were going to school or catching the bus, or we were taking them, and they'd be saying to me, run down the stairs, today's the best day of your life, tomorrow's going to be even better, you know. And we've added this life is better with you because we want everybody to know that they are important and
They're valued.
valued in the family, valued in life. We want them to be here with us. So we thank you, Gretchen, for this first part. We're going to be back soon with part 2. So please have a listen to this, and then we'll join us for part 2. Thank you, Gretchen.
See you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to our podcasts. We hope you're getting a lot out of them. Now we have to ask you for your help.
First, if you like our videos and podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss an important episode. Our team puts a lot of effort into bringing you the best leaders and voices in the ADHD space. And if you wouldn't mind sharing them, we sure would appreciate it.
Second, we need your help to help these wonderful kids that are struggling with the challenges of ADHD. Your donation is an investment in giving a family the opportunity to get the right care for their child through our care model and our care roadmap. Every donation goes to helping these families that cannot cover the cost of care. Any amount helps. If you want to be a sponsor for our YouTube podcast channel, we would love to talk with you.
And most importantly, a little bit of kindness goes a long way, especially for kids with ADHD.
Thank you for your continued support.